Hi there. My name is Judy Zorn, and welcome to Tuesday Talks. This is, I believe, the eighth week that we have done Tuesday Talks. This is how long we have been doing several of our online programs. Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra does our Little Bay concerts and our GLCO concerts where we feature archival recordings, and Lieber Andres does a new pre-concert talk for those. And so we're delighted to be able to bring you not only music, but to bring you these intimate chats with people who have touched the orchestra. And today I have as my guest, harpist Lynne Aspnes. Lynne, welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We're so delighted to have you. And the harp, of course, the harp has got to be almost everybody's favorite instrument, I would think. Now, I know that you were quite young when you started playing harp. Can you just tell us a little bit about how that happened? And I think you mentioned to me that your mother was a harpist, and so it came naturally just being in the family, but maybe you can share a little bit with us.
Sure. It's true. My mother started life as an oboist. Her mother was a concert pianist in Minneapolis, a rather accomplished, and she taught, at some schools and for the Minneapolis public schools. And my mother was a high school oboist, and actually, interestingly, went to Interlochen. My grandmother was on the faculty at the Interlochen summer arts camp, and she taught class piano. And so my mother was there with her in the summers, and my mother was the oboist in the high school orchestra. And one summer in 1920, well, it must have been 1930 or 31, when my grandmother was teaching, Lynne and Healy Harps in Chicago had an inventory of instruments that they couldn't sell because it was the middle of the Depression and people weren't really buying harps. And so they asked Interlochen if Interlochen would start a class harp program. And Interlochen said sure, and Lynne and Healy gave them the harps for use that first summer. And the idea was to generate interest in the instrument. They got a harp teacher, but they got a person to teach harp. He had never taught before. But my grandmother was the class piano teacher. So my grandmother wrote the lesson plans, and then he delivered them on the harp. And my grandmother insisted that my mother sign up for the class. She was concerned nobody would take lessons. So my mother signed up for harp lessons and was totally hooked. So she started when she was a late high school, 16 years old, I think, and eventually pursued a professional career as a teacher and a player. And it was in the house. My older sister played. And I think by the time I came along, it was literally kind of the family business. And so that's what I did. So I started when I was just about 4 and lessons at 5, probably.
Okay, so you must have had a smaller harp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
They come in every size, just like every instrument now does. You can get harps in a variety of sizes and suitable, for children, so that they're not trying to reach something that's unwieldy and that they can't control.
Right. Well, I know that so you have been playing ever since.
Mm-hmm.
And you have not only been playing, but you've been teaching. I know you've had a career at U of M in Ann Arbor, of course. So tell us a little bit about that and how you ended up there.
I just think it's intriguing and I see this with so many of my own students, that we do the thing that we grow up with and that's in the house. My father was a research librarian and a reader, a real reader. He was an advocate of music in every way imaginable. He loved it. He was not a practitioner in any professional sense. My mother was the professional musician, and my father recorded music and listened to music and played music. And his work was as a research librarian for the Cargill Corporation in Minneapolis. And so he never answered a question directly. He always said, go look it up. I would ask a question, he'd say, go look it up. So you grow up around these influences, and ultimately what you end up doing is a combination of those things. And so, to shorten the whole history of the family, I knew early on that what I wanted to do was teach, because basically both my parents were teachers of some stripe.
Sure.
And yeah, and I ended up getting, I did 3 degrees, an undergraduate degree and then a master's degree, and then I did a doctoral degree because I knew I wanted to teach in a university setting. And I did. I was in New York in 1983. I had finished my doctoral degree at the Manhattan School of Music, and I got the job at the University of Michigan and started in the fall of 1985. And so I was there for 24 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And it was great. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but there you have it. Who knows what they're getting into?
Yes.
And then I went from there to Arizona State University in an administrative capacity and ended up teaching at Arizona State until for another 8 years or so. So, university teaching, university environment, university playing, chamber music, orchestral music, classical music almost exclusively, because that's what I was raised with. It's what I love. But yeah, that's it.
Interesting. Well, but you held other posts while you were at U of M too, not only related to harp and or music, but I know that you were in career development and a few other areas too, weren't you?
Yeah, well, so, I have to say that I think I was pretty lucky. In fact, I think I was very lucky. But when I started at the University of Michigan, the commitment was still to hiring faculty in full-time tenure track positions. And so they had an opening for a harp instructor, harp assistant professor of harp. They hired for the opening. There weren't enough students to make it a legitimate full-time job. And at the end of my first year there, I had a great conversation with then Dean Paul Boylan, and he said, you don't really have enough students for us to keep this full-time position going. He said, I know it'll take some years for that to happen. And he said, in the meantime, let's figure out some other things you can do. And I had some expertise running a concert artist program that I had run when I was in New York and some other things. And so he put me in charge of the undergraduate scholarship program. And I did that for a few years, and then I became actually the undergraduate academic dean. And then in the early 1990s, the associate dean for academic affairs, which added graduate students into the mix. So yeah, it was basically from recruitment to commencement, everything related to student affairs for the School of Music. Wow. And it was great. And I never stopped doing it, even as the class increased in size, the harp class. And, at its peak, we were running between 11 and 14 harp students, which is as it should be. And it was great. And it just took some time to get there. But at that point, I loved doing the administrative stuff and I didn't want to quit. So I did both.
Well, and then continuing with that, I suppose you established the American Harp Center. So
well, right. That was a summer program kind of idea. Yeah. So the idea was a place for summer study, which is kind of how I ended up in Petoskey. We had a place when I was young that in Camden, Maine, there was a brilliant, just seminal harpist in the 20th century named Carlos Salcedo, who came from France and taught at, well, he started at the Metropolitan Opera and he ended up teaching at Curtis. And he was a remarkable person and an amazing musician. And early on in his career at Curtis, he interacted with the faculty and with all of these people and what was the guy's name that founded Curtis? I can't remember it.
Yeah.
His son was the actor. Anyway, they summered in Camden, Maine, and they would have people come up, and Salcedo summered there with them one summer and ended up going up every summer and would bring some students. And so he started this program. And when I was a teenager and went there to study, he was dead. He had long died earlier. Before I got there, but one of his proteges was doing the teaching, and she was a remarkable woman. And, that ended when she quit teaching, which was probably in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And the harp never really had a kind of a physical place after that we identified with harpists. With string players, there are a few, but there were places where their teachers went. Meadowmount is one, if you were a delay student, and this is Galamian, or, you would go in the summers, and harp didn't really have that. So we gave it a shot to see if we could make it happen again.
Oh, yeah. And what a great program. And like you say, a summer program like that. Mm-hmm. I know that all of your administrative talents and your dedication to that aspect has driven you or assisted in you being very active in the American Harp Society. And I know, in fact, now that you are president, and I think that you've been involved with the American Harp Society for a number of years, haven't you?
I think, yes, since about 1970, 1970, 71, my mother again finally, went to a conference for a very young organization. They were founded in 1962. And we didn't know anything. We were in Minnesota. We were pretty isolated. There aren't a lot of harpists, and it's, this was a revelation to her. And so she joined, and then I started to go with her to these national conferences. And, in that time, in that era, this is how you met the professionals. This is how you came into contact with the people that you'd only heard on LPs or over the radio. You'd never seen them in person. And it was formative. I mean, it was just incredible to me to hear these people play live and to be able to talk to them. This has changed a great deal over the decades, but it had meaning for me. It had tremendous meaning for me growing up. And during the time of my doctoral degree, my doctoral advisor was the editor of the American Harp Journal. And so she, again, was a researcher. She was a musicologist and a harpist, and it was kind of like my father coming back to haunt me. She would never answer any questions either. It was always, go look it up. Look it up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so what would you say, what is the purpose or the goal or the mission? What is the mission of the American Harp Society?
Well, I'm so committed to it. It's going to sound a little bit like proselytizing by the time we're done. But our mission statement is to celebrate our legacy, inspire excellence, and empower the next generation of harpists. And we are completely a service-based organization, like any professional organization of that type. We have no commercial component whatsoever. I think our responsibility is to advance the knowledge and skills of the harp and harpists, to do the best we can for the harp. And this mission statement really says it all. I mean, we do maintain the legacy of the harp in the United States especially, but we must inspire and empower harpists to do the best they can for the instrument, because it doesn't always happen that way. And to be honest, I think for any musical pursuit, things have changed a lot over the decades. There's a perception that maybe if you just listen to enough recordings or watch enough YouTube videos, you can master something. And it's simply not true. I don't care what it is, baking a cake or ice skating or playing the harp. You can't do it by watching. You have to do it. You have to work with people who know how to do this. And so it's good. We're working on kind of doing the best we can for the harp and for harpists.
Well, and as a harpist, I know that you have performed around the world, really.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
many summer festivals, both in Europe and United States and all over. Tell us a little bit about that, or maybe you can single out one or two that no, is that no, that stand out in your mind as being special for one reason or another. I'm sorry, I put you on the spot.
No, it's okay. I have, and I've been lucky. And I think if anything stands out about what I have done, it's the people I've gotten to work with as a result. It isn't anything I've done or anything that, I've brought to the table that's particularly special, but meeting these people and working with people, gosh, I think one of the best was being able to work in Bogota, Colombia with the Youth Philharmonic.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm still in contact with the harpists that I worked with that summer, and they're great. They're great people, and I loved it, and it was fabulous. The other one was a sort of a small, a sort of little festival teaching gig in Tasmania, Australia, and the people are just phenomenal. I just had a great time. But you go and you perform places, and that's exciting and thrilling, but it's the people you get to work with. And I think that's what really makes a difference.
Right.
So you can't ask me questions about me, Judy, because I'm not going to say anything.
Well, I know that and so through all of this, you're performing, your administrative work, you're traveling, all of that, you've also maintained a studio, so to speak. I mean, you've always been teaching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's what I like to do best in the world.
Yeah. It has to be amazing to have students of all caliber and all ages. And
mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just think it's amazing what they do. I think it's astonishing what they accomplish and what they go on to in life. Mm-hmm. So to me, I love to play, and I'm happy playing the harp, but I think teaching is truly the calling.
Are there more harp students, less harp students, or is that just not even a question to ask?
I think we have to think of all of this as it's proportional. And there are more people studying the harp now than probably ever before. There are more opportunities for people to study. There are more public school music programs. There are obviously more summer festivals, more, now online camps, all kinds of independent things to do. And there is training at young ages that starts a lot more people playing the harp. In my mind, that doesn't mean we're playing any better. It just means there are more people doing it, right, which is great. One of the reasons why I so enjoyed and do enjoy the teaching that I've done in Australia, in Tasmania, is because the majority of people there's less distinction, I think, in that culture for sure, between a professional and an amateur. There are people who are professionals, but there are also people who pursue the arts and pursue culture, and nobody places any boundaries on them. They don't say, "Oh, you're an amateur. Oh, you're only doing this for fun." No, they're very serious about what they do. They want to be really good at it, but they don't want to do it professionally. Right. And I think that's always, to me, offered amazing horizons for what you can accomplish as a student of anything, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Anecdotally, one of the women that I worked with in Tasmania is also a competitive ballroom dancer. And she had a career doing something, but her hobbies are dancing and the harp. And when the coronavirus, when they went into quarantine in Tasmania, she put up this video on her Facebook page because she couldn't go to the dancing competitions and she couldn't dance. She dressed up, put on her formal dancing attire and the shoes, and she was dancing her recycling bin down the driveway in this video. And she said her partner was Ben Green, was his name. And it was just, it's in her life, so she's going to do it no matter what.
Right. Well, you've got to have a little fun, I think.
Yeah.
And we've all been through a lot, and we don't know when this is all going to end either.
No.
But well, I know that you've been involved in a number of recordings.
Yeah.
And that is always an interesting process, isn't it?
Yeah. I do like it. It's yeah. A lot of them have been collaborative, mostly choral, premieres, some orchestral. Actually, to me, the orchestral recording is the easiest to do because you're in a big group, and you stand out often less. I mean, you're accurate. I'm not saying you wouldn't be accurate, but I think the most difficult thing to do is to do something in a small chamber setting where it's 2 people or 3 people or 4, because it's a little bit like a house of cards. You want, if somebody thinks one thing is the cards sort of start to fall over. But it's a great thing to do. And I'm really proud of all the recording I've done. They're really solid, really good pieces and really good music that's been laid down. So
I'll have to talk to you about that at another time and get some of those recordings. I'd love to hear them. Do you have a favorite piece of music that you love to play or you love to listen to? Yeah, after all these years.
Well, no, I have 2 favorite composers, Bach and Benjamin Britten, J.S. Bach and Benjamin Britten.
Interesting.
Those are my desert island composers. If I have Bach, I don't need anything else. And if I have Bach and Britten, I'm in heaven. So to me, those are the expressions of how both of them, how each of them expresses life through music is just remarkable. It's just incredible.
And different.
Well, yes, but no. In many ways, no. They're both very spiritual. They're both very, they're based in reason and they're just, I love the balance and I love the sense of construction. They're both contrapuntal composers in many ways. The harmonic language is different. Sure, because Britten had a little bit more that he could work with. But if you think about, there's not a single note in either composer that is wasted. Any piece you listen to, there's not a single note that's extraneous. Every single one is there to accomplish something. And for a harpist, Britten wrote, I think of all of the major composers, Britten has the largest body of music that uses the harp because he worked very closely with a harpist for his entire career. And as Britten aged and was not able to provide the piano accompaniments for Sir Peter Pears, he started writing for the harp. And because of his trust in the Welsh harpist that he worked with, Ocean Ellis was his name. And so there's just a lot of really great rep. And for the harp, that's an unusual thing. We have 2 pieces by Fauré. We have 1 piece that Mozart wrote. We have,
right.
There's 1 piece that Max Bruch used the harp twice in the orchestra. Berlioz used the harp once. So we don't get this sense of a composer the way other instrumentalists might, where they're playing more than, all the Brahms symphonies or all of the Haydn string quartets. We don't get that in the harp. And so to have that in the music of Britten is really kind of special.
Reminds me of the Ceremony of Carols, which is one of my favorites.
Yep.
And I just love that. Love
Yeah.
singing it, love listening to it. And the harp is so beautiful in that piece.
Yeah. And it's only one of the most amazing pieces of music that Britten wrote.
Right.
Just remarkable writing.
Right.
So, and you just can never have enough Bach. You just can't.
No, that's true. You know, you're looking ethereal there, Lynne, with the light behind your head. There you are. And of course, we get to see your harp. I think one or two of them.
Yeah, there are two back there. They're kind of.
See it now. I can see it. Yep, two of them back there. And so you just keep them, and your music stand is right there, and you're just ready to go, aren't you?
Well, one of them is brand new, and so I'm trying to decide what I'm keeping, whether I'm going to keep the old one or the new one, and then ultimately one of them will go away. But right now, these are French harps, and they I work through a company in Richmond, Virginia. And of course, I was supposed to be at a festival in March and purchase this new harp and couldn't go. And so eventually they just shipped me the new one, and I'm trying it out.
Wow.
So, and then but I can't keep both of them. I wish I could, but I won't be able to keep both.
Right. So what is on the horizon? I mean, I understand we're still very much in COVID and in tightening things up, and and live performance is, well, we don't really know, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But what things do you have on your horizon?
Well, I'm teaching in August for an online harp camp, Harp Column Academy. So I'm doing some of that. I have some coaching that I'm doing with students. I take the Harp Society position, this position of sort of leading this organization. It's a full-time administrative job, and I have the time now to really do it. So I'm actually feeling really grateful.
How many members are in the Harp Society?
Just under 3,000.
Oh my goodness!
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And the board just approved a 5-year strategic plan that we were really, I worked really hard on this with the board and with the executive committee. And now we have to make it happen. And it's going to involve a lot of things. Wow. And so there are a lot of initiatives and a lot of action items that I have the time now to make sure they're assigned to the groups and to the committees that will really get them done. So there are, as you know, there are just a ton of Zoom calls, lots of emails, lots of writing. Yes. Practicing.
Exactly. Lynne, this has just been so wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you
for sharing with us and taking some time with us. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in and listening to Tuesday Talks. We are pleased that we're able to bring this to you, as I said earlier, along with several other online programs. We, of course, continue to monitor and watch and listen carefully to what is happening and what directives are out there, particularly as it pertains to large performances and large events and audiences. And it appears as though things are still buttoned down, as I call it. The orchestra, it might be a little bit more time yet before we're able to be with all of you in a live performance. And of course, we will be ready when the curtain goes up. We will be ready, and we can't wait for that. And please stay tuned and watch our website. There will be announcements shortly with regarding our fall season, our September concert, our October concert. Meanwhile, I'd like to invite you again to please support the orchestra and help us continue to bring programs like this and our online programs, and help us again to be ready when the curtain goes up and we can see all of you live and in person, and you can enjoy the orchestra once again. So I ask that if it's possible at this time for you to support and make a donation, that would be wonderful. But I am thrilled that you are here with us and with Lynne. Lynne, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking me.
You're very welcome. And of course, I wish you all the best. And I know we'll be talking soon.
We will. Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.